we've got to get conscious in this moment of choice.
Yeah.
So that's the instruction she gives us. Stay fully in the present moment. Trust what she brings you. And when we do it that way, when we've embraced that moment, then she takes us to the next moment. And so that begins a different rhythm of how we follow life instead of capture life or make it become obedient or try to navigate it with ego in mind. The moment that they say, as they gave us this instruction, that as the ending is falling down, you must watch it to stay informed, but to stay focused on that which is breaking through, that which is carrying.
Welcome, everybody. And before I introduce Grandmother Jyoti Ma, I want to point out the obvious that this is not my kitchen behind me, which all of our kitchen table conversations have been up until this point. My husband and I moved. We're in a temporary place, and that place doesn't have a kitchen that's easy to have a conversation in. Yet, I guarantee you we're going to have a juicy, nutrient-rich conversation. And it thrills me to hold this space with Grandmother Jyoti so that you can learn about her walk in the world, and the really, really important sacred work of the organizations she's co-developed and or developed, and are orchestrated in the most sacred nature, to protect and preserve all that we consider sacred for Earth and all living and sentient beings. We know that the most hearty and nutrient-rich conversations happen at the kitchen table. So holding that spirit and that energy, I'm really excited about the nourishment you're all about to receive so lovingly from Grandmother Jyoti. Before we get started, and like I try to mention, and I often forget at the beginning or the end of these calls, you notice on the promotional material that was sent out, promoting this call, there is a symbol, and that symbol is a symbol of Om. Now, when I was writing the Liminal Odyssey, Spirit guided me, instructed me to include a symbol on the heading of every chapter. I didn't ask questions, I just said yes. And because every chapter has a different energy, I found a different symbol that represented that energy and carried that energy. And then it was suggested that I do the same for these calls, and it made perfect sense. So the reason I chose for this call, or it was chosen for me, I didn't have to think too hard about which would be an appropriate symbol for this call with us together today. I chose the symbol Om, which is the sound and the vibration of the universe. And that's just exactly the work that everything Jyoti Ma touches resonates at that level, in that field of the harmony of the universe, bringing us all into that vibrational integrity of not who we are, who we're connected with, and how we are all responsible caretakers of the planet and one another, and reminding us of that. And so I wanted to explain that, and yay for me for not forgetting to mention today. So now it's my delight, with that tone in your heart, to introduce someone that I've been honored to call, at her invitation, my granny in my pocket. Um, Grandmother Vision Keeper Jyoti Ma, as I love to call you. You're an extraordinary, renowned spiritual teacher who's cultivated projects that demonstrate ways of life that honor the earth and all peoples, and I'm so grateful for that. And as one of the founders, and now holding a grandmother seat as a spiritual director of the Center for Sacred Studies, Jyoti Ma co-founded Kayumari with spiritual communities, both in America and Europe. And we're going to hear a little bit about that. I hope we can get to that. Other projects that she helped to convene are the International Council of 13 Indigenous Grandmothers, something so near and dear to my heart, and the Unity Concert. And many more things, again, we're going to try to get to today. She's the founder of The Fountain, whose mission is to restore an economic model that is based on reciprocity and collaboration, guided by nature and the sacred. And she has devoted her life to bringing unity to the planet by facilitating the development of alliances between individuals who are the guardians of indigenous culture and traditional medicine ways. And through this work, collaborative relationships with organizations that are focused on economic, social, and environmental solutions have developed, creatively addressing the global challenges of our times. And that's such a mouthful. There's so much to say there, and it's so rich and deep. And I just bow deeply to you. Hello, hello, Granny in my heart.
Hello. Thank you for inviting me today.
Oh, I'm again so happy to have you here and can't wait to hear where this goes. Okay, so I'm just going to start with a question for you that, you know, since I've known you, yeah, there's something that resonates in you that's so powerful for me. And because I'm so fascinated with people and what their motivation is, what informs them, what brought them to this particular walk in life. I want to ask you a question that you actually ask your readers on your website. This one question, or it was a video that was on your website where you ask a question that I'm going to stretch a little bit and change it up a little bit, but ask you a similar question. All right.
Okay.
So, who were your original inspirations and the guides that led you to the dream that brought you to the doorway and the path that you're walking on today?
Well, I would say, if I were to be really honest, it was seated in me when I was a young girl, because I could run and climb under the leaves of a weepy willow in Texas, and I could cradle in the arms of this weepy willow elder, an ancestor, and I could catch instruction from the divine. And then I had to shut all of that down because of our Western ways of thinking. I'm in my middle 70s now, so it was a long time ago. And you can imagine in the South, such things were caught by, oh, you're exaggerating, go to your room moment. But that actually stimulated something deep in me that later, as the Kundalini awoke in me and moved through my system, reordering everything for 13 years. It was a long, long unfolding moment that brought me to my teacher, Dhyan Yogi in India, who helped me through that difficult time as my vehicle was being reorganized and altered in order for me to be able to carry the energy of the Divine Mother, which came developed over many years and glimpses of that. And that's a whole long more story than we have for today at the table. But it is what informed me and what structured me, and then brought me to a mountaintop in California, with a community of amazing, beautiful people, where we declared we were ready to step out of the box of a throwaway society. And we knew that waking up was messy. So we wanted to create a community that was kind first, and the mother gave us all the instruments to help us unpack all the trauma that we had lived through, both individually and through the generations of the family lines we walked with. And it also began to bring elders up our 14-mile logger road that saw something in us before we knew, and started to help us understand a mission the mother had handed us when in 1998 she handed us a basket. She said, I'm going to give you one of my most precious baskets, and inside that basket are lines of jewels that represent lines of prayer that go back to the original time. Do not mix them, do not change them, protect and keep them safe. and walk them through the doorway of the millennia and hand them back to me. I have something we're going to do. Now, when we got this, we had no understanding of what this meant, though we felt how profound it was and significant that it humbled us. It overwhelmed us. And we are very devoted, and that has never shaken through all of this. So it was the instruction of those elders coming up that 14-mile logger road to inform us of the protocol of how to carry such lines of prayer and care for them. And those protocol are mother law. And that mother law gives the instruction for how to care for creation. They're not like rules. They're like a living law that once you bring them inside and awaken them again inside yourself, you walk with a way of life that honors all life as sacred. And it shows how you can sit with diversity, because each of the jewels in the line came from different places on the planet, and they carried different lines of protocol that would help with their sacred territory. There is some universal gifting and teaching in that. Original principles have to do with reciprocity, collaboration, unity, heart, tolerance, compassion. These are all the universal teachings of that mother law. And we are now in a moment of returning back to the original moment in time of her making. Now we're coming in as all nations to sit humbly at this table, to reconnect ourselves with nature, because it was severed for a while, to reconnect with that nature and understand we are nature walking, and it's all interconnected. And we're following the instruction that prepared us and is now instructing us through the prophecy lines. And those lines help us know how to embrace diversity, and that we protect and keep safe and do not mix or change those lines that came from the original time, which is a discipline all in itself. But once we are able to have that level of discipline in ourselves and bring that restoration back to the center point of self, then we enter this time of choice with a different level of consciousness. So that's kind of a brushstroke of how this all got seeded and moved. And there's many stories within the story, but I'll just leave it with that.
Oh, my stars. Well, again, the sacred nature of that is so elegant. And mother law, of course, the staff is being passed back to the woman. And we are being reminded of our relationship with our planet merely out of the crisis that exists. I love the work of the fountain. And as I do all of the projects that you have that we're going to get to, but the fountain, the Center for Sacred Studies, and the Mother Earth delegation are also, they're unique in their approach and the work that they're doing. And they're also very symbiotic. And the common thread that runs through them all that creates a real coherence is that those feminine attributes, that mother law, as what I've noticed, collaboration, cooperation, reciprocity, the events that you produce and make available to the public provide that wisdom and knowledge, as well as invite the voice of the many, which is so necessary right now, right? We all have so much, we are all wisdom keepers, and we have to, and I love that you're reminding us of our reconnection back to the planet is the same as reconnecting back to we first have to reconnect back to ourselves. And so, yeah.
Right on. And it's a time when the masculine and the feminine are starting a new dance together.
Yeah.
And that feminine is ignited in all beings. in all of this creation because she's in a birthing moment, she's in a making moment. And so it allows us to depersonalize from such moments and let go of expectation and allow ourselves to be in a present moment. And in that present moment, trusting that she will bring everything to every individual here that they need in their awakening process. And if we can focus on the present moment, watch the mind, it's a bit tricky. In India, they call it the crazy monkey because it jumps everywhere. But if you're in the present moment and your mind jumps up and it tries to go backwards, it's going to bring regret here. Or if you're in the present moment and your mind tries to run ahead and see what's happening next, it might stimulate fear. But if you can stay in the present moment and trust the divine is bringing exactly what you need for yourself to really reactivate your own authenticity, then when you have embraced that, and that might be a challenging moment with the shadow, or it might be a healing moment of the trauma that's you've been through in this lifetime, or maybe many others, or it might be a magical miracle moment or an aha moment when all the lights go on. Whatever she brings to the moment, though, we just choose to embrace what she brings because it's an alchemical process and she's cooking us up and she's adding exactly what you need for your own personal evolutionary motion with your soul. And that I'm sure of. I know very deeply.
Yeah.
So that's the instruction she gives us. Stay fully in the present moment. Trust what she brings you. And when we do it that way, when we've embraced that moment, then she takes us to the next moment. And so that begins a different rhythm of how we follow life instead of capture life or make it become obedient or try to navigate it with ego and mind. It's something that activates and opens the heart, and that intelligence instructs the present moment.
And it's that elegant. It's really about slowing down for me to the sound of, and the speed, I should say, of awe and wonder and all, what's going on around me, which reminds me because now I'm curious, so I'm not in control. Right. And I've gotten out of the way of that moment so the moment can happen. But trust, wow, trust is such a huge element here to remember that and to slow down enough to remember that. And it's a practice. It's not easy when you live in a society like we do that is constantly going and you've got deadlines and you've got things to do and you've got people who are out there working, they've only got a limited amount of time to get done the things that don't relate to their day job, sort of a thing. How do we practice that? And it's a practice to slow down until it becomes part of our operating system. And I've noticed that opens up the field for me. I call that's what the liminal space is, the space between here and there, makes a gaping, huge opportunity to remember spirit's presence.
Right on. And like I was saying, this and what we're all saying right now is we've got to get conscious in this moment of choice. The prophecies from the Kogi, the Kagaba nation is their traditional way of speaking about themselves. They're part of the four original people out of Colombia. And they have an eagle condor prophecy that is recognized around the planet as giving us some of this instruction right now. They say the ending is falling into the beginning in 2026. And they told us this in 2013 to announce that we were entering into a 13-year deep, deep cleansing process. And as you think about these last 13 years, you can see how it's mounting and mounting with the intensity necessary to finish this cleansing process so we can pop into the new dawn. And they say the new dawn will be carried by those organizations and individuals and companies and movements that are based on those original principles to begin to move us into a foundation that was original, that we can then restore and regenerate life from. So it's a moment of choice. It's a moment of individual choice and collective choice. It's a moment that requires we wake to it.
Mm-hmm.
It's a moment that they say, as they gave us this instruction, that as the ending is falling down, you must watch it to stay informed, but to stay focused on that which is breaking through, that which is carrying those original principles. And so right now it's a discipline, because there's so much flying around us right now, and there's so much falling down right now, and there's a lot of fear. There was this image that came up to me not long ago that's really helped me in this moment that I've been sharing. And when I was at the Jung Institute doing some study there for several years, I heard this story, but I don't remember. I'm so sorry. The myth that it came out of, I think it was Hindu, but in any case, there was a turtle, and on the turtle's back was a staff. And at the top of the staff, there was a snake that had been coiled one time around, and the good angel had one end of the snake, and the bad angel had the other end of the snake. And they began to vie for the world. It's mine. No, it's mine. No, it's mine. No, it's mine. And it went faster and faster and faster until poof, the new world came to be. So it reminds me right now of what we see on our planet. No, it's mine. It's mine. It's mine. We're in that moment of the pulling of the angels, so that it can cause us to pop and land in the new dawn.
Absolutely. That's exactly, it has to be. It is. And so it is. We have to have the seed has to disintegrate, doesn't it, before the new birth can come. It's a falling apart that hurts, that we have to remember that trust.
And that trust to get restored goes back to when we got cut, our connection with Earth got cut. Mm-hmm. And it started in the late 1400s with what are called the papal bulls. Yeah. Where a letter was sent out by the Pope of that time to all those that he was sending into other countries, that read and said, when you arrive in those lands, the people there are less than human. And if they won't come and join us and change their way of life and change their language to speak ours, then kill them and take their lands, because they're less than human. That's when land acquisition began. And it was when we cut ourselves from nature and had to take a bit of a detour into understanding that everything got objectified. Land became a commodity. The feminine got suppressed and oppressed. And the wisdom of that walking with our masculine, we lost for a while. In the jungle, they call the West the termite people, because they're always consuming as they move. It teaches us something about the moment we've been in. And it teaches us that right now, our practice, our work is to decolonize ourselves, because through this action, we were all colonized. And English language particularly locks us in the box of colonization. And even when we don't want to be there, it's so imprinted on every one of us. All nations have been affected by this part of the journey. Now, I want to say that nothing went wrong. That's not the right place to come from. In India, when I was there, I'd go into an ashram or a holy place, and they might have a clock on the wall. And the clock on the wall would show 12 to 1 was 2,500 years, 1 to 2 was another 2,500 years. And so it went around the clock for 26,000 years. And the very last little sliver of that time, they call the Kali Yuga. Our original people call it the ending times. But we're right there now in the Kali Yuga. And if anybody out there is listening, you put your skin on to come in these times to serve the turning time that we're in, so we can move into the next cycle of 26,000 years. And this Mother Earth will go into is in her ascension process. So she's moving us out of lower chakras where we learned about survival with the body. Right. And she's moving us into the heart to begin an ascension process where some of my elders say it will be the first time that the humans have become human beings. So it's all about evolution, and it's all about the turning. It's not about pointing fingers and saying what caused it to go wrong, or blame and judgment. It's about stepping back and looking at the bigger picture of what's happening, so we can depersonalize and move into a selfless act with ourselves to assist in the turning times. Mm-hmm. And as we do that, we deepen the relationship with that which lives inside each and every one of us, that is full presence of being, is divine in its element, infused by the energy of love, which is the strongest medicine on this planet, and is what is at the seed of growing this creation. So I just want to maybe stir that at your table.
Stir it, toss me in the whitewater with it. It's just brilliant. And it really, yes, it's not about victimizing ourselves, because all of these, the crisis, the piling on of crisis on the planet right now, it's what an incredible time to be alive, to see that everything falling apart, but we can also begin to see the green sprout of this new becoming emerge by the simple presence. I don't mean to discount it at all, but simply by the presence of the critical mass of visionaries, futurists, scientists, theologians, everybody, no matter what you do or how you identify, showing up right now, waking up. And even quantum science is discovering we are moving into a second quantum revolution, where there's more space in between the atom that we thought, or in the atom than we thought. And the heartbeat and earth heart math is discovering that the heartbeat of the planet is rising, which means we are. And I like to think of it as perhaps our minds are catching up to our spirituality for a race to that awakening. Mm-hmm. That everyone I talk to, or all around me, no matter what that person does or says, is coming awaken. I don't know what the right way to say that. Awoke. Yeah. They're asking different questions. They're questioning, we're questioning assumptions. Not they are, I am too. Questioning, does it really have to be that way? Is the way I walk through my life the way I have to be? Do I have to think like that? Do I have to have that? Is that what makes me happy? Yeah. So really personalizing it to decolonize it. And also I think that knowing these things, seeing what's happening, understanding what the Popple Bull presented for us, and the other things that happen have happened in the world that have moved us, have provided creative tension, is helpful, so that we know where to go. We know we can look at our shadow side. And for example, what Stephen Newcomb in The Doctrine of Discovery, Unmasking the Domination Code, that documentary that's so great, I'll put it in the body of this video, says that this is the organic nature of an original organic nature of the United States. The whole country was formed in this domination, system. So knowing that helps us unravel it, and we know where to go.
It's like if you look at your own individual healing, in order for you to get to a healing place, whether you've got a life-threatening disease, or whether you've got an imbalance with your mind, or your emotions, or your or your heart, um, or your physicality, you always have to come back down to that place that allows you to see where that disharmony was seated. And it's just about being able to see it. Because once our consciousness can see that place, then the consciousness itself will reorder itself to a restored state of wholeness. And so we've learned, I think enough of us have taken that on over these last few decades. We really jumped into that healing process for ourselves, that we brought it to the next level where it's time to do that in our nation and in our world. It's time to allow ourselves to see that place where the bad seed got planted, recognize it for what it is, and so that consciousness on the planet can realign and restore and regenerate itself back to the heart of the earth and the heart of everything that is. It's a big work. It's a big work. It's a work that requires us to humble ourselves.
Do you think it'll happen with or without us?
Evolution will march. It's not personal at all. Whether or not the human race will go into the new dawn, that's the choice we're making right now. For the earth herself is on her way.
Beautiful. I'd like to talk a little bit about the fountain, if I could. If it's all right, it's not really shifting the energy a lot. It's just basically demonstrating what we can do and what's happening on that front. And I know you had sent me a video. Your team had put together this beautiful short video that I'm going to show right now that really speaks about the path that has led you here and which manifests into this beautiful project.
And
So,
I'll just say this much before you show that, because as my path has unfolded, she has presented us with instruments that would help us cultivate that part of the path. And the fountain has been the most recent one, and it's a decade old now. And it's been informed by the four original people and instructed us to walk this way since its inception. I went there with a small group of people. Loretta Afraid of Bear Cook went with me, Darlene Hunter from the Center for Sacred Studies, Bethany Yarrow went as a translator, and others. And we went there when the vision was first caught. And because I wanted to make sure that I had caught this in the right way and that I was listening deeply enough for that right instruction to appear. And we spent many days with them in consultation. At the end, they said, yes, this is exactly where the fountain needs to sit, and we need to sit there too. And so since that time, they go into deep consultation that can last for 3, 5, 7, or more longer days. When they're in consultation, they're completely immersed in the source, and they bring back from the source the instruction, and they don't take water or food or sleep during consultation. And they bring back that instruction, which they handed us, and then we would walk that instruction out, whole ceremony of gratitude for what we had learned, went back for the next level of instruction. So for 1 decade, that is what has been growing an instrument she calls the fountain, and which they called the fountain for natural order of our existence. And that brought us back to a rhythm where we were following and listening to that deep listening of the Mother Earth's instruction, trusting her with what she needed us to do in this moment of time. So I'll just say that much as you share this little video, because people kept asking me, what is the fountain?
I'm so glad this was made and that you also presented it the way you did. So to get the full experience, and here we go.
What is the fountain? At this very critical prophetic moment, we came to discover that economy of life is what the fountain is all about. They call it the fountain for natural order of our existence. In the original days when we were working with sacred economy of life, then reciprocity is the foundation of all life, and all things care for each other. And so there is a sustainability of flourishing that occurs naturally through reciprocity. There are original principles and protocols that were given to all the original people in all the different varied territories around this planet. For a sacred economy to flow, we have to have our resources flow and care for our lands, our territories, to care and protect the original cultures that have the ceremonies to keep those territories fully lit and moving a healthy, abundant way with life. Those original principles that are the core to all of this are seen and usually brought into place and connected to very much the creation story of each of the original nations around the planet. Generosity, compassion, tolerance. These are some of the original principles that create this foundation of life, if you will. And so we've been instructed through this last 10 years in those protocols, because we're moving from man law and returning to mother law, from a sense of competition to a sense of collaboration. We're moving from greed into reciprocity, from power over to equality, from an oppressed state to heart and love. We're moving from division to unity, from the ownership of earth to the understanding that all life is sacred and no one owns life. We care for life. We're moving from an attitude of extraction back to allowing a process of life to guide us and show us the next steps we need to take. So for me, the fountain has come through this very deep training process with the earth herself instructing us. She has helped us remember a way of life. It is connecting with our understanding that we are part of creation. We're not lords of creation. We must listen to the instruction of Mother Earth because she's done this before and she knows how to go through this cycle. And we're prepared to assist her in that process of her evolution, which means she's moving into her own ascension process, as my elders speak about it. And we're awful lucky if we're all sitting in the circle and you are listening to the sharing of this story right now in this poignant moment of choice. So we need to come back to the nature of who we are, each and every one of us. We need to sit with that nature, commune and unify as we move through the keyhole and into the new dawn. So for me, that's what the fountain has been about. I'm sharing the different levels that you can see. It's a very much of an interweaving of different levels of understanding and educating and awakening within each one of us the significance of our own authenticity. Because in the end, she's bringing us back to the original point of the making.
Oh, that's beautiful, beautiful. Thank you.
So I think you're going to have to reset it because the music, it was sketchy and the music wasn't there to accompany it. I don't know what went on, but
Oh,
I hope you can recut that in and
plan on it. I'll just put in the direct video feed, like image right there. That'll be easier for me to do and it'll come out. It'll be synthesized with our voices too. So yes, I will definitely do that. Thank you. On my end, it wasn't so bad, but I bet you've got a little bit more of a critical ear.
my end I couldn't hear any music at all
Oh,
un-
really?
until
Okay.
the very end.
Okay.
Yeah.
Oh, all right. Well, I definitely will do that anyway. And I just, for the flow of our conversation, I think it was good to do what we did. And I thank you for sending that to me. I think this was just a beautiful um, way of capturing the spirit of the work that you're doing. One of the things that I notice is that you educate companies. Are you still doing that?
We are. We're in the process right now of she's handing us she wants us to develop the next instrument. And that next instrument is bringing some of our collaborators, some of those collaborating companies and organizations that have been kind of we've been all walking this road together. And we're going to jump into a moment in the next couple of months together, what I'm calling God's Lab. And we're going to bring, because each of these companies, organizations, maybe you have someone from a data company, you have someone that's an organization that's a service and
Uh-huh.
service to the public. Maybe you have a company that's modeling a new restoration or regeneration way of helping the earth or listening to the earth. Um, Many different threads. So we want all those threads to jump into God's lab. We're going to be looking at, first of all, having some teachers, native and non-native, that are going to help us start to look at decolonizing our ways of thinking and being. And then we're going to have our elders share original principles and the teachings about, so those codes can be restored and remembered inside of us. And then we're going to let the mysteries start to stir out of those levels of conversation and work with one another. What are the parts of this puzzle that are coming together that will design this instrument that we can then offer to take into different companies and organizations and movements that will help them either seed that field as they're building a brand new company, or it will help us go in so that we can assess with those people in the company where their culture is in regards to the original principles, how to transform it and restore it back to that original base of life. And so we're just in the midst of doing that right now.
Oh, I can't imagine right now one of the bigger um, contributors to our climate problems than corporations. And yet we are the ones who feed them with our dollar. And that you're doing this work at a corporate or company level is so necessary right now to remind them of who they are and the responsibility and how profitable um, climate restoration can actually be. Right? It's the seat of the domination system are corporations, and yet again, remembering who we are and our responsibility and our privilege, right, to do what we will with our dollar and make sure we know where it's going as well.
It's like two hands praying. From one side, we have to listen to the earth, and what she said is declare your sovereignty and restore the original caretakers to those original territories, because those original territories are like acupuncture points on her body, and
Mhm.
they've been closed off or they've been fenced away. So the original people who carry the ceremony that will keep that site active and healthy have not been allowed to do so. So we're in the motion of accelerating the need to return those sacred territories into the original caretaker hands so the earth can breathe and help us all move into that next motion with her ascension. And at the same time, companies and structures that are willing and humble enough and are insightful enough to realize they can be instruments in the transformation of this moment so that we can all return to life is sacred. all life is sacred, and we're here to help caretake that preciousness of life. Then you have these two hands coming together to make a very interesting, beautiful prayer.
That's just so beautiful.
And just remember, she's the one, she's got the plan. I'm just her arms and legs. I just walk out her what she needs in her plan.
And reverence is something all of the organizations, which we unfortunately we didn't get to the all the other ones, and they're all going to be listed below. Please, I don't even know if we could capture the energy in the time that we have left anyway. So please do go look at the links for the Center for Sacred Studies, and also the Mother Earth Delegation of United Original Nations, and you'll find those down below. Also, you've got a couple of public gatherings coming up, and one of which is the Mothership Project, is something that I love because you encourage the voices of everyone to come and participate in the Mothership, and all of those can be found where? What site can we find those?
Center for Sacred Studies is the Mothership.
Yes.
We have, we also, and you're going to put the links to all of this.
Yeah.
You can also, for the public offering that the Mother Earth Delegation has committed to since the pandemic started, which was when the Mother Earth Delegation was put in motion. Just right before that is when things happened, and that's a whole nother story we don't have time for. But we listened, and she put something in motion, and as soon as we were on our way to meet in person in Stockholm to take care of the first step of what the Mother Earth Delegation was to do, and when that couldn't happen, we immediately went online and offered a prayer and instruction from the Mother Earth about how to hold that moment and how to walk in that moment. And it's now, we offer it every third Saturday of every month, and it's continued to seem to be received and provide some sustenance during this time of great change. And so it'll continue until it's not needed that way. We'll see. But on this next, not this Saturday, but the following Saturday on the 15th, I guess, I don't have my calendar in front of me, of October is when they will be presenting again.
Yeah.
So
yeah, please do get there. I thank you so deeply and it's such an incredible opportunity to be alive at the same time as you. See,
we're all alive together. It's a moment of synchronicity, and it's a moment of choice, and it's a moment of magic. Remember to stay in your heart, so your joy will flow you. And we're all needed. We're all sitting in a circle. The only hierarchy here comes from the divine herself, from that direction, and also from below us, and it meets right in our heart. And that's, they say, is where the rainbow will flow from. And that flows us into the new dawn. So thank you for being on this earth at this moment in time.
Oh my goodness. See, everybody, I told you, you were in for a juicy, filling kitchen table conversation. Thank you, Grandmother Jyoti Ma. I'm so grateful for you. And thank you for that closing prayer.
Thank you for your vision and your action that you allowed your vision to instruct you to take. Thank you.
Oh, my pleasure. Thank you.